Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Christmas Spirit. Welcome to Christmas Spirit. Where have my grammatical skills gone? I don't know. It's gone. Well, welcome to our episode of Fifth Lord in the Sixth House and what happens when Fifth Lord is in the Sixth House. And by the way, I have solved the dilemma to my Xbox that I had this past week. Yash, can you sit here? Come here. Here, sit. Yeah, that's a good boy. That's a good boy. So yeah, I have solved the dilemma to my Xbox, situation, and I'm gonna announce it this Friday in my weekly astrology show. But anyway, fifth lord in the sixth house, and by the way, if you do not know where your fifth lord is placed, and what other lords are, placed in your houses and all the conjunction and aspects. For that, check out the links here so you can get your full astrological report, especially with option 6. If you're new to astrology, look at the option 6 so I can make an audio for your birth horoscope. And at the same time, my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspect of the Speed of Light, are also available there. So, fifth house. Fifth house is a house of education. Fifth house is a house of children, creativity, self-expression through creativity, romance, speculative business like stock market, sports betting, gambling. All of these things are represented by the fifth house. It's a house of sports and fun. Anything that you have fun with in life is from fifth house. So what happens when this goes into the sixth house? And when the planet that controls that house in your particular horoscope goes into the sixth house, well, what is the sixth house? Sixth house, known as the house of deaths, diseases, obstacles, enemies, routine work, your everyday work, small animals, non-profit organizations. It also, there's one more important thing that represents this. Went out of my mind. Well, hopefully we'll cover it in this video, I'll remember. But that's the main meat of sixth house for sure, okay? And so when this planet goes into the sixth house, shows that your creative self-expression and your ability to, express yourself creatively is really seen when you're dealing with animals, when you're in your everyday work, because everyday sixth house represents, it's a Artha house, shows your everyday work life. And there you are able to use your creativity. It shows whenever you deal with diseases or health, you take a creative approach to it. You take a very creative educational approach to it. And your education, which is fifth house, could be in health and healing, or it could be in debt management. But mainly because of the fact the fifth house is really the house of how you express yourself in this life in a fun way, is seen that you might work with animals, you might be a veterinarian, you might work with non-profit organization and have a creative way of seeing how the funds might come in, what kind of organization you can be a part of. And it also shows that when it comes to dealing with debt, when it comes to dealing with obstacles, pretty much, you have a creative way of getting out of them. It could be anything, it could be the fact, how some people are able to juggle one debt to the other. They take from this card, pay from that card, then wait for the other card, then wait for this offer. When that comes, it's like they use their creative mind to take care of these mundane things. But mainly there's this tremendous love for animals. There's this tremendous love for small petsies like this guy, Yash. Come here. Yash, you want to be in the video? Or no? You don't want to be in the video? Okay, he doesn't want to be in the video. But anyway, that's where it comes from. And since fifth house, as I said, is a house of gambling and investments and speculative business, in the sixth house it shows you might be able to get into debt due to your investment. You might be able to get into disputes and lose your investments, because remember, in Vedic astrology, sixth house is actually a Dushtana house, meaning house that creates obstacles in a human life. And so what happens is you may make a lot of investments or betting, and suddenly you lose it to your opponents, which is competition, sixth house. That's the thing, see? That's the thing I was trying to remember. Sixth house is competition. Your competition with the enemy. And so what it shows is that creatively, you can deal with your enemy and defeat them. You have the intelligence to go around them and defeat them at their game. And because fifth house represents sports, you become very competitive in sports. However, one thing I noticed though is that fifth and sixth house Parivartan Yoga can actually take somebody away from romance and love. Can actually take somebody where they're just not interested in love. I have seen 2 or 3 times with this Parivartan Yoga, and I have searched for this Parivartan Yoga. So if you have a Parivartan Yoga, 5th and 6th house, email me. That means your 5th Lord planet that controls the 5th house is in the 6th house, and the planet that controls the 6th house is in the 5th house. So that's what I've noticed. But I would love to know more if you have this, and if you do feel the fact that you're not interested in love and romance. But that's what initially, this 5th house, 5th Lord in the 6th house represents. But depending upon, what planet is there, your 5th Lord house or your scenario of the 6th house will differentiate a bit. It may be creative, it may not be creative, it may be something else. So let's see what these planets are doing when certain planets go into the 6th house, being the 5th house Lord. So let's say if Sun controls your 5th house and Sun goes in the 6th house, what this shows is that your creative self-expression is really shown in a routine workplace where you can be an authoritative figure. And by being an authoritative figure, you're able to not only help yourself, but help your employees express themselves creatively. Like, you will be this great manager or this great supervisor who nitpicks all the details and looks at everything, but at the same time, because your Sun actually rules the 5th house of creativity, you're able to really find creativity in the details. You're able to, help express everybody else's talent by being a leader. And that's what Sun does when he controls the 5th house and sits in the 6th house. Let's say Moon controls your 5th house and goes into the 6th house, shows that you're able to emotionally, charge your or like energize your workforce. You're able to emotionally connect with small animals, and this is where these people can easily go into, helping small animals, helping, diseased animals and dogs, or they can go for non-profit organization and help, like, especially mother-like women. Like, let's say you might be somebody who can suddenly join an organization that helps, domestic abused women domestically, and you may actually become this nurturing figure in your workplace. And the reason why you become this nurturing figure is because you're, again, able to help people and nurture them to express their creativity. But this can also show that due to too much attachment, to the things of the 6th house, you may not pay as much attention to your 5th house, which is children. Or at the same time, the Moon will feel like, the Moon person, that, it's a job. It's a job for me to raise my children. And so when it becomes a job, then the Moon is not able to express itself as emotionally, but it's really just does everything according to, according to a plan. Like, it's my job to raise children, so I'm going to do this. And actually, it's with every planet. When 5th Lord goes into the 6th house, it kind of becomes your work to deal with education, deal with children. But Moon is our emotional side. Now, let's say if Mercury rules your 5th house and Mercury goes into the 6th house, what this shows is that you become this great communicator in your workplace who's able to, through his communication or her communication, able to do things creatively. You're able to become the voice of people who are unprivileged. And through your creative intelligence, you're able to help those people. This is why even if you work for a nonprofit organization, you might be a journalist for them. You might become a writer. You might become this poet who, through their words and writing, which is seen by Mercury, you're able to creatively show the world, look what's wrong here in the 6th house. And that's what happens. And here Mercury can also make a great accountant, and Mercury can make here even like a great accountant as well. Now, let's say Venus controls your 5th house, and Venus goes into the 6th house, shows that your creative self-expression really comes out when you form relationships with people at work. when you form relationships with people who are unprivileged, when you form relationships with people who are diseased or who are not very healthy, you love forming a relationship with those people and bringing them up. And for a man, because Venus represents the wife, you may actually find your wife through nonprofit organization, through a shelter where, like, you were working there helping animals, she was working there helping animals, and you guys met. Or you may meet in a place, in an environment where there were a lot of obstacles and enemies, and you guys met. Maybe you guys were a part of some, protest where suddenly things got chaotic and you ran into your wife. So these kind of things happen. But then Venus is the absolute, significator of artistic talents and creativity, and shows your work will become creative. Like your routine work of 6th house will become creative. So you can be anything. You can be an actor now. You can be an editor. You can be an art teacher. You can do anything. Work with children in creative, in a creative environment. But Venus really brings that, great love for forming relationship with people who are unprivileged. You want to become this hero of the people with this. And same thing with Mars. When Mars goes as a 5th lord in the 6th house, you want to become the hero of the people. You want to take charge, and you're like, I'm going to protect you. And through your creative expression, you're able to protect them. Whether you find your voice creatively or through your actions, you're able to, deal with your routine work. You become this general in your work and with your children. And the thing is here, competition becomes your creativity. So whether it's your work environment, whether it's sports, or whether you're even working in a nonprofit organization, you want to be able to compete. You have this nature of competing. So what these people will do, they'll be like, okay, my organization is doing this and their organization is doing better. How can we beat them? So that whole thing about nonprofit and helping the unprivileged really goes out the window with Mars. Mars is like, he wants to help, but he wants to really win competition. He wants to be like, I want to have the best nonprofit organization there. And also what it shows is that on behalf of children, you can be in debt as well, because Mars is a significator of debt. If it rules the 5th house of children and goes into the 6th house, shows you might have to take debt to raise children, which everybody does. So it's not like in this day and age, you're going to be the only one. It's just more prominent and signified by this. But in competition, sports, education, hardly anybody can defeat you, because you have Mars in the 6th house becomes very powerful in competitive arena. 3rd, 6th, and 10th house, Mars is like unbeatable. So you become this, great leader in your workspace who can just creatively beat competitions and have fun at the same time. Let's say if Jupiter controls your 5th house, goes into the 6th house, shows somebody who can be a great advisor at the workplace, who is creatively able to give suggestion and help people. Jupiter here can give knowledge of accountancy and finance. Jupiter can help people solve their problem. He's like, okay, you're in debt, let me help you. And they'll show you these creative ways how to manage money, how to save money. So they become great money managers, because Jupiter is a significator of money. When he controls the 5th house of speculative business and goes into the 6th house, he's able to advise people who might have made bad investments. And this doesn't necessarily mean that Jupiter, your finances are going to be bad, because how many people are born with Jupiter in the 6th house? And I've seen in my own personal friend circle, they're multimillionaires with Jupiter in the 6th house. But it really shows that somebody who uses their self-expression to advise and counsel other people. Now, you can advise and counsel other people in a financial environment or in a competitive environment, like a coach. You can be a great coach, great motivator of people who are down and out on their luck, because 6th house also represents like pretty much unprivileged people who are not able to get what they want in life. So you become this really great spiritual teacher for them. But mainly it shows that somebody who can be a great advisor financially, somebody who can advise people how to manage, how to, like, even in your workplace, you'll be like this mentor, this guru. Like, hey, I got some personal problem at workplace. People will come to you even with their personal problems, and you'll be like happy to advise them. So really here, Jupiter just knows how to solve people's problems and disputes, because sixth house is disputes, so Jupiter is solving them. Let's say if Saturn controls the fifth house and goes into the sixth house. Saturn loves routine jobs and routine work. And Saturn says, I find my creativity by not only doing hard work and repetitive work and routine work, but I want my team to be doing the same. And so Saturn, who makes a manager here, with this kind of a manager, they just says work hard and you will find your creativity. Saturn here loves nonprofit organizations. Saturn here loves to work for organizations that help older people, elderly people, like in nursing homes. Saturn here is really somebody who loves saving animals from cruelty of others. You know, where Mars, actually I forgot to say, Mars can actually make somebody a hunter who hunts animals for fun, especially depending upon what sign is he in. But Saturn here wants to save that. Saturn here may work for government. Saturn here may work for some scientific, place where there's a routine work. You're doing like lab work. You get some chemicals, you dip some things, and you move it to the next one. You get the chemical, dip something. So that's the kind of work Saturn loves doing. And in the sixth house, pretty much, nonprofit organization and working with people who are, handicapped and very sick, have a chronic illness. You love working with them. So it can make you a doctor. It can make a great manager. It can make somebody who works in government service as well. Because sixth house is service. Saturn is the original significator of government. See, government is not really signified by Sun. Sun is the leader of the government. Government is Saturn, because originally Saturn controls the 10th house with Capricorn, and 10th house is government. So it's actually the Saturn. So a lot of people mistake, Sun with the government. Sun is government because Sun is the highest leader of that. But Saturn is the one who's managing the entire government. And Saturn is able to also slowly and surely solve people's disputes. So one can actually also make a great attorney here with Saturn. Okay. So guys, this was my analysis of fifth lord in the sixth house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And again, if you want to know where your sixth lord is placed and all the details of astrology, check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.